Hello everyone. During this lesson you will be able to learn about what soft skills are, the European policies about them, how important they are to our lives, and also, we will analyze the most important of them. European Skills Agenda. Skills are a pathway to employability and prosperity. With the right skills, people are equipped for good quality jobs and can fulfill their potential as confident, active citizens. In a fast-changing global economy, skills will to a great extent determine competitiveness and the capacity to drive innovation. They are a pull factor for investment and a catalyst in the virtuous circle of job creation and growth. They are key to social cohesion. The rapid shift towards a climate-neutral Europe and digital transformation is changing the way we work, learn, take part in society, and lead our everyday lives. Europe can only grasp these opportunities if its people develop the right skills. The COVID-19 pandemic has also had a profound impact on millions of people in the EU who have lost their job or experienced significant income loss. Many will need to acquire new skills and move to new jobs in a different sector of economy. More will need to upskill to keep their job in a new work environment. For young people, entry in the labor market could be very challenging. Now, more than ever, the EU needs a paradigm shift on skills. One that delivers a bold skills agenda for jobs to drive the twin transitions and ensure recovery from the socio-economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in order to strengthen sustainable competitiveness. Skills and lifelong learning are crucial for long-term and sustainable growth, productivity and innovation, and therefore a key factor for the competitiveness of businesses of all sizes, in particular small and medium-sized enterprises. Providing people with the right skills allows them to work more effectively and take advantage of advanced technologies, eliminates the major obstacle identified to business investment, prevents labor market mismatches, and lays the ground for research and development and firm-based innovation. It is only with the right skills that Europe can strengthen its position in global competition and have a sustained economic relaunch geared towards the green and digital transitions. This means delivering on the European Green Deal, which is the EU's growth strategy, and in the strategic sectors and ecosystems identified in the EU's new industrial strategy. Ensure social fairness. Access to up and reskilling opportunities is vital for the tens of millions of workers propelled into short-time work or unemployment, no matter their current level of skills or area of qualifications. Europe's recovery will only be a success if cohesive and no one is left behind. Having the right skills means being able to stay employed and master job transitions more easily. This requires providing equal access to additional upskilling opportunities for all people, regardless of gender, racial or ethnic origin, religion or belief, disability, age, or sexual orientation, and including low-qualified skilled adults and people with a migrant background. Similarly, all territories should be covered, from big cities to rural, coastal, or remote areas across the whole EU. Build our resilience. The last few months put several professions under strong pressure. This is particularly the case of health and care professionals, as well as frontline workers in retail, transport, social or sanitation services, and teachers and trainers. Having enough skilled workers in these strategic sectors is crucial to ensure effective access to basic health, social or educational services for citizens in a period of crisis. For the individual, improving resilience through skills means reducing dependence on market conditions and increasing his or her potential to navigate through life and professional transitions. Moreover, the COVID-19 pandemic has also shown the need to be digitally ready to continue educational and business activity. Challenges to IT infrastructure and e-systems have revealed the need to improve our human capacity for cybersecurity preparedness and response. The European Skills Agenda includes 12 actions organized around 4 building blocks. A call to join forces in a collective action. Action 1, a pact for skills. Actions to ensure that people have the right skills for jobs. Action 2, strengthening skills intelligence. Action 3, EU support for strategic national upskilling. Action 4, proposal for a council recommendation on vocational education and training. Action 5, rolling out the European Universities Initiative and upskilling scientists. Action 6, skills to support the twin transitions. Action 7, increasing STEM graduates and fostering entrepreneurial and transversal skills. Action 8, skills for life tools and initiatives to support people in their lifelong learning pathways. Action 9, initiative on individual learning accounts. Action 10, a European approach to micro-credentials. Action 11, new Europass platform, a framework to unlock investments in skills. Action 12, improving the enabling framework to unlock member states and private investments in skills. Soft skills. Before going any further in debating the importance of soft skills, we have to clarify the question: what exactly are soft skills? This basic question is not easy to answer, because the perception of what is a soft skill differs from context to context. A subject may be considered a soft skill in one particular area, and may be considered a hard skill in another. On top of it, the understanding of what should be recognized as a soft skill varies widely. Knowledge in project management, for instance, is nice to have for an electrical engineer, but it is a must-have for a civil engineer. Training in cultural awareness might be useful, but it is an absolute necessity for public or human resources management in societies of diverse cultures. Interesting enough, the internationally renowned encyclopedias have little to say about soft skills. The online encyclopedia Wikipedia gives a very broad definition of soft skills, which leaves much room for discussion. Soft skills refer to the cluster of personality traits, social graces, facility with language, personal habits, friendliness, and optimism that mark people to varying degrees. Soft skills complement hard skills, which are the technical requirements of a job. Also, soft skills are a combination of people skills, social skills, communication skills, character or personality traits, attitudes, mindsets, career attributes, social intelligence and emotional intelligence quotients, among others, that enable people to navigate their environment, work well with others, perform well, and achieve their goals. Benefits of soft skills training: communicate effectively, improve teamwork, creativity, efficiency, safety and productivity, create a self-awareness, manage organizational conflict, give and receive feedback, hold difficult conversations, remain calm and objective. The 10 key soft skills are: 1. Communication. 2. Self-motivation. 3. Leadership. 4. Responsibility. 5. Teamwork. 6. Problem solving. 7. Decisiveness. 8. Ability to work under pressure and time management. 9. Flexibility. 10. Negotiation and conflict resolution. How can you inspire confidence, whether you're one-on-one or in a group, even under pressure or when you're uncertain or caught off guard? How can you stand out in a talented crowd, get heard, and have people wanting to hear more from you? This is what people with executive presence do. It sometimes goes by different names: leadership presence, executive demeanor, professional maturity, gravitas, whatever you call it, you can strengthen it too. People for whom it was crucial to develop it for their continued success. It is a vital leadership characteristic. It is a difference maker when organizations need to choose a select few for special opportunities and promotions among a competitive field of many other smart, energetic managers who also get results. It is critical across all functions in the organization, even technology and engineering. In a survey of chief information officers by Gartner, A global technology research leader, executive presence skills came in second among the top 20 leadership skills needed for success. According to a study by the Center for Talent Innovation, executive presence counted for 26% of what it takes to get promoted to leadership positions. That is huge when you think of the dozens of other leadership qualities. This single factor, 26%, it is a differentiator. Executive presence helps stand out in a crowd and from a crowd. 4 factors of executive presence. Few whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That is true about the 4 factors that drive executive presence. When they all work well, they all work together, but to understand them better, to use them better, to zero in on where you can make your most valuable improvements, we need to split them up and look at each factor one by one. But before we do, and to remind ourselves how strength of presence multiplies when all 4 factors align. First example, Nelson Mandela loses the first presidential debate to F.W. de Klerk, and at that moment of significant potential public embarrassment, frustration, and loss of confidence, he immediately turns it around by reaching out to de Klerk and saying for the whole country and the whole world to hear, "Thank you for being a true son of Africa." First factor, the foundation, passion. It was Mandela's passion for positive change that was the foundation for his actions at the end of the debate and his many future examples of executive presence. The problem he dedicated his life to solving after 50 horrible years of apartheid, himself being imprisoned for more than half the time, was to bring his country together. That is passion. Second factor, perspective, thinking patterns. Leading by example often starts with thinking by example. Mandela's thinking after the debate wasn't dominated by self-driven concerns about mistakes or distracted by how negatively he might appear to others. Instead, he was 100% present in the moment and alert to the positive possibilities still available. He didn't even seem to think of de Klerk as an opponent to defeat but a partner to enlist in the larger cause of their country. That's perspective. Third factor, poise, emotional patterns. Whatever emotions might naturally occur in that moment, disappointment, frustration, embarrassment, Mandela makes room for other more functional feelings too, pride, determination. He seems to treat the debate setback not as fodder for self-indulgent personal pity, but instead as a signal to go back to his broader purpose and gain confidence from that. His passion for positive change is solid and something always to draw strength from and to feel good about even at the very moment of failure. That's poise. Fourth factor, projection, action patterns. At the end of the debate, Mandela was decisive in his physical movement, concise with his words, and profound in his impact. Notice the key is not that he made a good verbal counterpoint. In his actions, Mandela embodied his passion for positive change. He was the example of a united South Africa, joining with his opponent and treating him with respect, dignity, and utter confidence that together they're on an important path bigger than both of them. Elevating above the divisive us versus them format of the current debate and the past tragic history of the country. That's projection. The habits are the patterns we've been talking about, thinking patterns, emotional patterns, action patterns. With project management, you're more likely to know exactly what's happening. You are in control of the budget and the schedule. You're not really taking risks or unnecessary ones at least. You really have a clear idea of what is going on with multiple people, potentially at multiple locations. This tends to lead to better customer relations. You are going to be able to reduce the stress of the client because they are going to have more confidence. This will both come from the performance, the quality of work you are delivering, as well as the fact that you are delivering regular scheduled updates. In the world of creativity, people that work in video, graphic design, and photography are often not respected as professionals by many other people. It is not that they don't appreciate our talent, it's that they don't feel confident in our ability to stick to a budget or a schedule. Project management allows you to relate to the clients in ways that they expect. This better communication is helpful for everyone. It makes it easier to successfully bill what a fair price is, collect for extra work that you have to do, and really pulls it all together. It also means that mistakes are minimized, because people working on the project are able to communicate with each other and the expectations are better communicated with the client and back and forth. The end result, of course, here is higher quality results. This is better for you when it comes to your portfolio, as well as building out the clients. This will lead to more long-term success and really put all the pieces together for a successful career or for your company to thrive. So, project management is the process of leading the work of a team to achieve goals and meet success criteria at a specified time. Developed by the Project Management Institute, the 5 phases of project management include conception and initiation, planning, execution, performance monitoring, and project close. With creative projects, there is a little bit different life cycle. Typically, most creative projects start off with a call or an email from a client. That client could be internal or external, but somebody asks you for something. Ideally, you have a project kick-off meeting. That could be a phone call or a meeting where you discuss the outcomes. Often teams, with these meetings, it's a good idea to evaluate past work samples or other competitive samples so you can better define things. Because what you see in your mind may not be what the client is expecting. Very quickly, work out the budget and the schedule. You need to know the constraints up front, because as creative people, we'll often have great ideas and get really excited and pitch these great ideas and concepts, only to find out that there's not enough time, or more likely, the client doesn't have enough money to pay for that outcome. So, you need to know up front what sort of constraints you're going to have to work under. Then, the work gets underway, and make sure that you build in several client reviews. In the world of video, this is often things like rough cuts, fine cuts, and final cuts, string outs. With graphic designs or websites, the ability to look at proofs or comps. With photography, doing quick reviews or even tethered shooting on set so they're looking at it and evaluating. And then at the very end, you make project delivery. With creative projects, though, you need to be careful with that project delivery. Often teams, creative people will find themselves having difficulty getting paid, so the progress payments along the way, as well as controlling the deliverables, will help you ensure that the funds are coming in. This might involve watermarking things or secure digital delivery and not just handing over all assets right away. With creative projects, they pretty much always start off behind schedule. People reach out to you because they determine that they can't do it internally or they really don't understand the process and how long it takes, and they just think that a 4-hour video should take maybe 5 or 6 hours to produce. They're always rushing to start. Once they do decide to initiate the project, they're excited and they want to get momentum. What's important here is you have to find the balance between the creative outcomes that you're trying to create, your spirit as a creative person, and the constraints that are put upon you by the budget and the scope. The 12 steps to managing a project successfully. Planning. 1. Define the project. Agree on the success criteria and major constraints with the customer in writing. 2. List the tasks. 3. Estimate times and costs for each task. 4. Add uptime and cost. Assess dependencies and draw the critical path. How long will the project take? 5. Shorten your project plan. Consider crashing or overlapping critical tasks. 6. Draw a Gantt chart. 7. Calculate resource requirements over time. Adjust using the float of non-critical tasks. 8. Assess risks and prepare action plans. Preventative and protective. Ensure contingency. Action. 9. Monitor progress. 10. Monitor cost. 11. Reschedule. Make decisions on slipping or crashing and communicate progress and changes. Review, learn and praise. An adaptive mindset is a mental attitude of assessing the facts and circumstances of the current situation and/or environment and making the appropriate adjustments to thrive in any scenario. Change is all around you, in the news, in the technology you use, in the way entire industries are becoming disrupted. But as workers, we do not always adapt to those changes as quickly as we could. Now that may have been acceptable in earlier times when change was slower. But today, adapting to change is a critical skill set that all workers need to learn right now, today. In fact, as a manager, you're probably working in an organization that's subject to dramatic change, whether it's because your field is being disrupted, or because your organization is going through a major transition, such as a merger, acquisition, upsizing or downsizing. Even if you think you're in an industry that isn't changing dramatically, there's no guarantee that there won't be a sudden change soon. In the early 1990s, few people predicted that industries like media and entertainment would become so rapidly disrupted. So don't think that you're immune. As industries, technologies, and the very nature of work changes, it's inevitable that the rules of managing work are changing as well. Now imagine that you're guiding a boat down a relatively placid stream, with only the occasional ripple to make you sit up and take notice. Now suppose that suddenly you find yourself in a rapid with water churning all around you, and with constant twists and turns, and in a roaring river. I mean, you can't see what's ahead of you. Contrast the skill set required to steer that fast-moving boat versus the skills needed to guide through placid waters. It's a totally different context for guiding to a successful result. Keeping your head while the waters are roiling around you requires a new managerial skill set, so you can achieve the best possible results in chaotic times and continually adapt to the completely new challenges of the rapids around the next bend in the river. In the old days, we mapped out our plans for navigating the future with 5- and 10-year plans and phone book-sized instruction manuals, but those days are gone. A growth mindset means that you believe your intelligence and talents can be developed over time. A fixed mindset means that you believe intelligence is fixed, so if you're not good at something, you might believe you'll never be good at it. So, an agile mindset is about creating and responding to change in uncertain and turbulent environments. It's about thinking through how you can understand what's going on in the environment, identify what uncertainty you're facing, and figure out how to adapt as you go along. Managers need to be far more adaptive in the way they approach their work and in the way they prepare their workers for an uncertain future. Managers need to learn a completely new set of strategies for guiding their teams through those uncertain waters. I call this an adaptive mindset. It's the only effective approach for dealing with constant uncertainty. You can learn this mindset, and you can learn how to apply it to the range of problems that you're going to encounter in your work. So, first, an adaptive manager needs to be an adaptive project manager, leading the team to focus on the goals and deliverables of the group. But an adaptive manager isn't a micromanager. They focus on what needs to be done and why it needs to be done, and far less on how the steps are to be performed. An adaptive manager needs to be both coach and career counselor. By making a priority of the workers' career aspirations and developmental needs, the adaptive manager gets the best out of workers, because the goals of the worker, the team, and the organization all become better aligned. An adaptive manager is also a mentor and an advisor. Once a manager knows the worker's goals and aspirations, they can help guide the worker to develop the skill set necessary to attain their potential. Finally, an adaptive manager is a change agent, a champion of innovation and of challenging the status quo, encouraging workers to constantly look for new ways to meet the needs of the organization's stakeholders. Self-management skills. Our self-management skills are those skills that often determine the difference between success and, well, less than success in adaptive situations. Self-management skills are those transferable skills that we point at ourselves. They are often called traits, but that can be a little misleading. Traits makes it sound like they're unchangeable, things that are simply facts about ourselves, like personality traits. But self-management skills can be developed and honed just like any other skill. Now, we all know the model of a human being with virtually no self-management skills. It's called a newborn baby. We come into this world with zero ability to manage ourselves. We can't do much of anything without help from others. At the other end of the spectrum, imagine an adult who is perfect at self-management, someone who's always on time, never loses their temper, unless they make a conscious decision to, always does what they commit to, accomplishes every task in the time they've allocated for it, and so on. Well, that person would be annoying, wouldn't they? The truth is, even though there are some people who are very mature in the skills they use to manage themselves, we're all somewhere along the spectrum of developing and improving a variety of self-management skills. And some of us will always be better at specific skills than others. You can help workers become more adaptive by guiding them to understand what self-management skills are, and what it looks like when our most important self-management skills are working well for us. You can also help them determine when certain self-management skills aren't as well developed for a given situation. And you can encourage them to practice improving those skills. For example, time management is a pretty mechanical set of self-management skills. There's often an underlying psychology where a worker isn't completely aware that they continually cut their timing too close. But they either feel there isn't enough of a penalty for being late, or they can wriggle their way out of the situations they've created by being late. Open and honest dialogue from a manager and encouraging the worker to accept the responsibility to solve the time management issue, either on their own or through a course, tackles the issue straight on. It also gives the worker the opportunity to develop a more mature response to managing their time. Where even our best self-management skills often break down is under stress. When we feel pressure, when we don't feel we have support, when we don't believe we have the time or resources to do something well, any or all of these pressures can contribute to a deterioration of our self-management skills. That's the major reason that stress reduction techniques can be so important for workers who are attempting to use their self-management skills to adapt to constant change. Encouraging workers to try everything from breathing exercises to yoga to group relaxation techniques can not only help workers to deal with stress when it's happening, they can avoid feeling stressed by proactively using those kinds of techniques. And these in themselves are self-management skills. But perhaps the most important self-management skill in a constantly changing environment is the ability to ask for help. One of the biggest people-related challenges is effective communication. There are three main groups with which communication is important. The first group is your team. These are people who work for you on the project, or maybe they are just working with you. You are not actually in charge of them. The second group who you need to communicate with are your suppliers. Now these could be external suppliers or possibly internal to your organization, maybe the IT department. Then the third group is your customers. These are the people who need to keep happy. The communication problems with these groups or with the team, it is probably that they are not clear on their roles of who is doing what. Then maybe teams do not always communicate enough between each other on their progress, the problems they are having, and whether the lateness of one person is affecting another person. With suppliers, the communication problem tends to be that they say they will deliver parts of your project by certain dates, and then they change their minds later and let you down. With customers, the communication problems tend to be firstly that they push you into agreeing to the impossible at the start. Also, there is a tendency to avoid these people during the project if things aren't going well, and that's not good. Now the answer to all the above consists of just two things. The first one is a communications plan agreed with everyone at the start. This plan tells you who you are going to communicate with, how often, and by what medium. So, for example, You might agree with some people you are going to email them only if there's a problem. Maybe you will have a weekly meeting or a daily phone call. Perhaps you will write a monthly report, but you agree how this is going to be done at the start. There is also the reverse of how often they will communicate with you on their progress and problems. So, for example, the IT department would have to tell you how they are getting on perhaps weekly. If you agree this plan at the start, then you can make sure that they tell you the things that you need to know, and also they can't complain later that you didn't inform them enough. Also, it forces you to communicate frequently with your customers even if things are going bad. Feedback. If you know that receiving feedback will help you to improve and develop, it makes the process more comfortable. If you accept that you will make mistakes and you will at times receive feedback you may not want to hear or agree with, it puts you in the driving seat when it comes to creating growth mindset. Think about learning to ride a bike. Falling off may be painful but necessary for you to learn what you need to do to successfully ride a bike. Of course, some feedback is factual, which is how we describe evaluative feedback. Think about the exam grades, blog rankings, a pass or fail test. This feedback is factual and useful, although it does not provide a lot of qualitative detail. Developmental feedback, however, is where you will receive ideas and opinions from others about how you can make tweaks to your approach, improve performance, or achieve a specific outcome you want to see. This type of feedback may include ideas about how you can create a new product, or interact more successfully with others, or get better at dealing with heated situations. Utilizing developmental feedback is a critical part of creating a growth mindset. Using the feedback sorter exercise file, write down every piece of feedback you receive over the next week. It could be anything, from someone suggesting you park your car in a different way through to learning that your approach to a situation has upset someone. The final step is reflection. What has this process taught you about how you receive feedback? Providing feedback, whether it be structured or unstructured, planned or not planned, can be a daunting and tricky process, but it does not have to be this way. There are 5 simple and clear steps you can take to deliver feedback in a productive, useful, and informative way. First, prepare your feedback. Occasionally, you will be asked to give feedback off the cuff, and perhaps you feel comfortable doing this. If you have the information ready to share, go ahead. You can, however, reply and say that you would like some time to think about it, gather your thoughts, and provide relevant and useful feedback. There is no harm in taking your time, being considerate in your approach, and planning how you would like to deliver the message. When preparing, think about key pieces of information that you will share, how you will deliver the feedback, for example, face-to-face or via email, clear examples you can share to illustrate your points. The second step is to focus on your tone. Often, it is not what we say as others that has an impact, but how we say it. If you are delivering constructive feedback, make sure your tone is supportive and informal, suggesting ways to overcome challenges or change behaviors. When considering your tone, focus on being informal, approachable, and empathetic, helping the other person to find solutions and not dwell on those development areas, making the other person feel comfortable. The third step is to explore the facts and use concrete examples. Sometimes you will just be asked for your opinion, and that's a valid point of view. However, if you are providing more formal or thorough feedback, use examples to help the other person understand your point of view. Focusing on facts helps to make the feedback less personal and more objective. Things to think about when exploring facts and using concrete examples are: gather various examples to provide a broad perspective rather than focusing on a one-off event. Feel free to state which parts of the feedback are just your personal opinion and which parts are based on facts. Ask the other person for feedback. Do they see the event or situation in the same way? The fourth step is to listen. Yes, you have been asked for feedback, but the person you are providing feedback for may have a completely different point of view, which may change your perspective when you understand the point of view. Delivering feedback isn't a one-way street. It should be a collaborative process. When focusing on your listening, think about leaving time for the other person to digest the information and discuss their views at a later date. Ask the other person for their perspective on your feedback and how that fits in with what others have said. Active listening, which is all about taking the other person's perspective on board. The final step is creating a forward focus. This is all about helping the other person understand they can use the information that you're providing them with as a data point which can then be used to create a plan. We all have development potential. The key is to use feedback as a way to improve in the future. When creating a forward focus, frame your feedback in a way that's useful and can help the other person to make improvements. Use facts, data, and examples, but mostly focus on future opportunities. Help the other person explore how they can use this information to enhance their personal performance. Partnering. As you start to build out your collection of people that work with you on a regular basis, you may grow into a partnering type of relationship. These are vendors or key people that you use a lot, and having them on the team is often necessary to succeed. Perhaps it is a writer you work with a lot, and they do not just write for you. They write for other people, but every time you have to put together the website, you know you can count on them for the next script, or maybe it's a specialty crew member, an audio engineer that you like to work with. Well, how you find these people, you can actually cement the business relationship a couple of different ways. One method is to do a formal agreement. This is where you actually have written terms, and you agree to regularly work with each other. For example, the director of photography may allow you to include some of her work samples on your demo reel because you commit that you're going to hire them for the project. Or you might have payment terms specified so you know their rates. This way, as you are putting together budgets for clients, you do not have to constantly check in with vendors to double-check their prices. You can have written agreements that specify the rates you are going to pay that you've agreed to for a certain time period. Now, this level of formality doesn't always happen, but it is a good idea. Bare minimum, though, this also naturally becomes an informal process. You may find yourself having a core team of people you like to work with, and they really contribute to the success. As your company grows and gets bigger, you might actually add some of these people into staff positions or part-time positions, and you're going to have a group of freelancers that you frequently use. When working with freelance talent, though, it is important that you remember that it's a stressful position to be in the world of freelance. Often teams, you have lots of work and not enough. So make sure you are effectively communicating these tasks with people, the expectations for timelines and delivery, as well as budgeting some extra time when you're working with outside partners. You can't expect somebody that you're working with outside of your office to stay late or to be instantly available when you ask for them, but having a good mix of partners allows you to respond to the very different needs that each project may come up with, allowing you to put together a custom team that's well suited to meet the demands. Engaging team members throughout the process. The people involved in your project are your team, the people who work for you or with you on the project. And they can be a source of problems as well if they are not engaged with the project. So, the key thing with them is to involve them as much as you can in your project. This will mean that they have more buy-in, but also, you will get a better result. If you just give people a chance, it can often be a lot better than you expect. So, involve your team as much as you can in the project planning and management process. And I would say there are probably 5 places where you should involve people. First, listing the tasks. Get your team together for a brainstorm of tasks. Secondly, for estimating how long things are going to take. Your team probably know more than you do about that. Then there is constructing your network diagram, the running order of your tasks. What will we do before what? The team will enjoy being part of that and will have things to add. The fourth of the 5 is progress reviews. So, when you stop and you talk about how's the project doing, clearly you want to involve the team. How much do they know about what is happening on the various parts of your project? And finally, involve your team in the reviewing of your projects. What was good? What was bad? Involve as many people as you can in that because it is all useful information that you are gathering. So, involve your team as much as you can, and that will avoid all sorts of people problems due to lack of engagement. And you might want to think about some existing projects that you are involved in at the moment. Is your team fully involved as much as possible? Are there any individuals who you have left out? Are there any stages of the process where you could involve your team more? Leadership. Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act toward achieving a common goal. In a business setting, this can mean directing workers and colleagues with a strategy to meet the company's needs. While you may think of yourself as the team leader, you cannot be the only leader on the team. There will be times where you get tied up with multiple projects, or you might get pulled to respond to an issue and need to go work with the client. You need somebody else to be able to be in charge. In this case, there is a lot of ways that you can encourage leadership amongst the team. First, start by sharing responsibilities. Try to decentralize your power and put other people in charge of different aspects. It doesn't mean that you're not the backup or that you don't still check their work, but you need to get other people in charge of things. Otherwise, they're never going to step up and lead. You also want to encourage communication. Even if you're not there, encourage the team to meet. Encourage them to meet with each other. Instead of centralizing everything through you, try to bring people together. If one person has a concern or complaint, it's important that you listen to it, but very quickly try to pull the 2 departments or the 2 individuals together and then step back. You're there to moderate the issue, but you don't have to solve every problem personally. Also, it is very important that you give clear ownership over tasks. When you're using the work breakdown structure and you start to break things apart, make sure people understand what they own. If they don't understand that this is their deadline and that they're going to be held accountable, it's very difficult to get people to lead. Then all problems point to you, and they could just say that they didn't know it was up to them. What is important here is that you create a culture of accountability. People need to know that they can hold each other accountable and that the deadlines and expectations are real. Don't lie about deadlines. Don't excessively pad them. Don't be excessively dramatic. Just be accountable and hold others to be accountable as well. Clear communication and realistic deadlines can do this. The first step of the what, when, where processing system is to take one item from one of your approved gathering points. Remember, an approved gathering point is one of those 6 places where anything unresolved should be put. When it comes time to process, you pull out just one item and begin processing that one item. It's critical that you take only one item at a time. If you pick up 2 or 3 items or halfway through processing one, stop and pick up another, you're switch tasking. Switch tasking is inefficient because it slows you down, causes you to make more mistakes, and increases your stress. So, pick up one item and ask yourself the question, what is the next step? Meaning, what is the next step I must take to move this thing toward completion? The second question you ask yourself is, when will it be done? Meaning, during my available time, when should I take that step? Should I do it now? Should I do it later? When is the time? Then finally, ask yourself the question, where is its home? Meaning, where does this thing belong? Should I file it away? Should I stuff it into a drawer? Should I throw it away? Get in the habit of asking yourself these 3 questions every single time you pick up an item during processing. What is the next step? When will it be done? Where is its home? In fact, for the first hour or so that you use this new system, ask yourself these questions out loud. What is the next step? When will it be done? Where is its home? Saying this out loud helps condition your mind and build mental muscle memory. Repeat these questions over and over until you get to the point that you cannot pick up a new item until you hear yourself asking these 3 questions. What is the next step? When will it be done? Where is its home? If you consider these 3 questions, you will realize you're already processing. Everyone has to process. You have to answer these 3 questions, or nothing gets done. However, if you have not been following a system like this, you're likely making these choices haphazardly and incompletely. You're switching throughout your day asking the what, when, where questions haphazardly, and it's causing you to lose significant amounts of time, make lots of mistakes, and increase your stress. Rather than processing randomly throughout the day, create a consistent schedule to go through this processing. This schedule will help you process quickly and with minimal effort. It all begins with these 3 questions. What is the next step? When will it be done? And where is its home? Before you've processed your first item though, let's explore these questions in depth. Strategic thinking. Strategic thinking is simply an intentional and rational thought process that focuses on the analysis of critical factors and variables that will influence the long-term success of a business, a team, or an individual. Strategic thinking is a valuable skill for everyone in an organization, but it becomes increasingly essential as you ascend the ladder. In fact, you likely will not be promoted and can't succeed as a leader without it. You stop being evaluated on whether you can implement a task or a project, and you start being asked to conceptualize it and make determinations about what is valuable for you, the company, and other employees to be spending their time on. That is a completely different skill set, yet no one formally teaches you how to do that. It is not like corporations offer a strategy school. You have to take the initiative to figure it out. Cultural communication. Cultural communication pertains to the use of language and other communicative means to carry out the activities and commitments of their particular communities in and through the use of symbolic resources. These resources include verbal and non-verbal means, as well as the rules for using and interpreting them. An idea succeeds when the audience understands it and embraces it. The Montreal Olympics in 1976 followed tragedy and political violence at the 1972 Olympics. Raymond Bellemare decided to communicate the peaceful and non-political nature of the Olympics with iconography. To achieve this, Bellemare used the symbol of a denim jacket. That spoke to youth culture at the time, and a series of buttons, each with a unique icon. It is not important to know what every icon represents. What is important is that the viewer have a connection to the icons that he or she recognizes as part of their world. If you understand the audience and their culture, use the icons they recognize, the meaning may be lost on a larger group, but will be extremely resonant to the people you want to reach. Consider the future and learn from the past. To be a strategic thinker, you cannot just consider the present, the day-to-day in front of you. You have to take stock of the future through evaluating trends and identifying possible scenarios and interpret the past so you can learn from it. Here is how to master both skills. When it comes to the future, of course, no one's foresight is perfect. All you can do is guess. But with practice, your guesses can become far more nuanced and informed. One important element is recognizing both macro trends that will impact society, maybe the rise of driverless cars, or 3D printing, and micro trends that will impact your industry specifically. Most people do not bother to seek out this kind of big picture information. They are content to just do their job and are surprised when disruption happens. But if you stay on top of trends, you will not be surprised. In fact, you will be far ahead of others, because you will have had years to strategize and adapt, so that when disruption hits, you not only have a plan, but are already implementing it. To effectively monitor trends, it is important to read voraciously, both general interest and industry-specific publications. It is also useful to identify people in your life, whether inside your industry or not, whom you think of as particularly well informed. Maybe it is a university professor in your social circle, or a guy who works at a think tank, or a magazine reporter you run into at conferences. If you see that they watch trends closely, make a point of drawing them out. Ask them what is interesting, or promising, or worrisome to them, and learn from their insights. It is also useful to engage in scenario building, a process that is popular with the military. This is mapping out, literally writing down like a story, multiple possible ways that the future could play out. Any individual scenario probably is not going to happen exactly as you imagine it, but pieces of multiple scenarios might well happen. And identifying possible weaknesses or opportunities early on can allow you to plan more effectively for them. Finally, when it comes to understanding the past, it's important not just to be aware of what happened, but also why. As humans, we're pretty good at identifying explanations, but a common problem is that, after we find one that's plausible, we stop looking. Yet often teams there is more than one reason something happened. The company may have gone out of business because the founder made bad hiring decisions, but it is possible that the product market fit also was not right, and they relied too heavily on print advertising when they should have done more online. We cannot let ourselves be content with simple answers if they do not actually represent the whole story. We need to train ourselves to ask, is there more I should be aware of? Learning to take a holistic view of the past can yield insights that are often hidden to others. Getting good at strategic thinking means we cannot afford to just live in the present. We have to develop a healthy intuition about the future and a clear-eyed understanding of the past. Thank you.